Hello everyone, welcome to the Dermalux Academy webinar and thank you for joining us today. So for those of you who are new to the Dermalux Academy or who have missed our previous webinars, they're going to be available to watch on our YouTube channel, so we'll send you a link sort of at the end of this. So today we're very excited to have a guest speaker, so Kerry Belba from Laser Skin Solutions down in Bournemouth. Kerry has 2 of the Dermalux Tri-Wave devices and she also has a Flex. So we wanted to share her experience and her expertise of integrating Dermalux into her practice from a clinical and a commercial point of view. So we've had lots of questions in response to this topic, so thank you very much. And if you have any questions as we go through, you can add them into the live chat and then we'll try to answer as many of them as possible at the end of this. So we're going to sort of kick straight in. We're going to start and we're going to hand over to Kerry. So hi Kerry, thank you for joining us. And maybe you could just start by introducing yourself and your clinic before we go into the questions.
Yeah, so my name's Kerry Belba. So I have a laser clinic in Bournemouth, and I've been doing laser and IPL treatments for quite a long time, so about 15 years. I'm also a laser trainer, and I've been basically working with sort of various different light devices for quite a while. I was the first non-medical person in the country to do a level 4 laser qualifications. So obviously we're not talking about laser today, but it's just to explain that I've sort of been doing this for quite a while, and in that time I've managed to accumulate quite a lot of devices. So about 11 different laser and IPLs and 2 LED devices, as well as the home flex machines as well. So yeah, I do work with quite a sort of an array of equipment that I like to call my toolbox, which I can kind of pick and choose what to use depending on what I'm treating. So so I've been working with Dermalux since 2017, and yeah, it's completely revolutionized sort of what I do in clinic. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Fantastic, thank you. So we'll go into the first question. So how do you integrate Dermalux with other treatments in your clinic?
So it completely depends on what I'm doing, who I'm treating, what skin types I'm treating. So the thing that's nice is that I literally do have kind of an answer for everyone. So for example, if I do a lot of acne treatments, I love treating acne. And although we're not very diverse down here in Bournemouth, sadly, if a skin type 1 comes in or a skin type 6, so on the Fitzpatrick skin typing of 1 to 6, as in 6 being black skin, I am able to treat everyone who comes through the door. So obviously, apart from I obviously do a lot of laser treatments, I'm also a skin clinic. So with my skin side of things, my skin rejuvenation, I have integrated Dermalux in lots of different ways. So some people come in literally because they just want their skin to look better, fresher. Some people come in with horrendous psoriasis or eczema. And the Dermalux literally can treat all skin issues, all skin conditions, whether it is literally to make the skin look fresher, more radiant, or if it's actually dealing with a really bad skin condition. So I use it in all manner of ways for straightforward skin rejuve, or to actually tackle some inflammatory skin conditions.
So really as part of an overall skin program.
Absolutely. I do a lot of add-on treatments to so for example, and we'll be able to see some of the photos in this webinar, as add-on to laser skin rejuvenation, I always include the Dermalux now, because it just, overall it gets better results. But also as a standalone treatment as well. So sometimes, for example, people come in with acne who I can't touch them with a laser because they get melasma, which is a condition I used to have myself. Obviously it never goes away, but because of the treatments I do, I don't show as having it. But anyone who has melasma, for example, you wouldn't be able to laser. And so as a standalone treatment for acne, I would always choose the Dermalux, because you don't want to aggravate any other skin conditions that are already there.
So you're really recommending it for, I suppose, because of the wide range of treatment options, then you can really recommend it for everybody. And we definitely think about it for sort of skin health as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And also mental health, you know, the light is so good for serotonin levels as well. You know, it really is like, you know, lying in sunshine without the guilt. So it's amazing. I think, you know, I've been in the industry a long time, and I've spent a lot of time treating, you know, various skin conditions. And I think, you know, anyone who isn't using Dermalux, who is treating any kind of skin issues, whether it's simple skin rejuve or actual problems, anyone who isn't using a Dermalux, I feel is missing a trick. You know, I would hate to be without my Dermalux now. It's like, it's one of those things, you know, once you have it, you wouldn't want to not have it anymore in your clinic. It's as simple as that. And I fell into it by accident. Because, you know, as I was saying to you, I opened a second clinic in Winchester a few years ago. And when I was buying my laser equipment, the clinic that was closing, that I was buying it from, happened to have a Dermalux. And that's how I fell into it. But it just quickly became apparent. I mean, it is honestly hands down one of the best things I've ever had at the clinic. And as a result, I was so impressed with the results. I then bought another one for my Bournemouth clinic. And I think I was very lucky. The reason I so very quickly saw, you know, how good a Dermalux was is because one of the first clients I treated was a lovely old gentleman. He was a farmer, and he had, you know, he quite frankly couldn't have cared less about aesthetics. You know, he was like, you know, in his 70s, wasn't bothered about, you know, how his skin looked, but he had terrible psoriasis on the back of his back. And he said, you know, I can't even see it. He said, I don't care that it's there. He said, but it's so uncomfortable, especially when I'm driving my tractor, etc. So, and the results, seeing how his skin changed, you know, and this is the thing, you know, LEDs are very gentle, they're very non-invasive. But to see the real power of just what an LED is capable of is when you see it work on what I call compromised skin. You know, when you have an inflammatory, you know, autoimmune, you know, really uncomfortable skin condition where the skin barrier is completely compromised, and you see the results, you know, after like 2 sessions, it's just mind-blowing. And what I always have, you know, say to my clients is that, you know, when you see the results like that on compromised skin, it's very quick, you know, it's very easy to go, wow, you can really see what it does. But it's doing that to everyone's skin, you know, regardless of whether you have, you know, something like psoriasis, it is doing that to everyone's skin. As soon as the light hits the skin, there is a cascade of, you know, biological reactions that happen in the skin, regardless of whether you have something like psoriasis. It's just that it's so obvious, you know, when you can see the effects on compromised skin.
Definitely, I think we very much focus on the healing and beneficial aspects of it. You know, when you think about other treatments that a clinic would offer, you know, they're working on a principle of creating trauma, and you know, many inflammatory conditions from acne, you know, redness, psoriasis, you know, they're all inflammatory conditions, even pigmentation. So having a tool that can sort of can combine it as part of an overall sort of skin program, or offer, you know, genuine.
Absolutely. And I'm someone who's had melasma for years, you know, and I used to have like a splodge on my forehead, and it literally looked like someone had thrown paint at it. And then I used to get really bad marks under my eyes. Now, I think I was saying to you yesterday, Louise, I don't mind coming on a national webinar and saying, you know, I was 47 this summer. I've not yet had any Botox, any fillers. I'm not averse to it. It's just, you know, not for me at the moment. Speak to me again when I'm in my 50s. But because I have melasma, I sit with this amazing array of laser equipment, and the irony is I can't use any of it. But what I do use is I have regular glycolic peels, and I get under my Dermalux. And so on a personal level, just not just what I can do for my clients, it's just, yeah, it's life-changing. It's so nice to be able to do something for everyone, especially myself. Not that I get a lot of time to get under the light, I have to say. I have to really be strict and say, right, you know, otherwise it's a bit like going to a hairdresser who has bad hair, isn't it? So you do have to make time for your own skin.
It is hard, but I think, yeah, having a treatment that really is accessible for everybody, that can really deal with such a wide range of conditions and can be integrated in so many ways is a valuable investment, to any sort of skin.
Oh God,
yeah,
absolutely. I think, and that's the thing, considering, I don't think like a Dermalux Tri-Wave, I think considering what it's capable of, I think it's an absolute steal. I think I don't, for me, I think every clinic should have a Dermalux. And I'd just like to say, I'm not actually being paid to say this. I'm not being paid to do a webinar or anything. This is purely from my experience. Some of you may have seen I've been doing quite a few webinars during lockdown, in any event. But I wanted to come on and talk about Dermalux today because I really feel that a lot of clinics are missing a trick, and that I think if you are putting yourself out there as a skin expert, as an aesthetics expert, then you need to really be including LED, because LED has come on so much. When I first started, there weren't really any LEDs out there, at least none to kind of like worth, speaking about, going back to like sort of, 2004. But now, I mean, with Dermalux in the field, I think, it's completely life-changing.
Yeah, it's just, and obviously, as we've talked about in other webinars, it's how the LED has become, there's been this sort of influx of devices into the market, and it's like, I suppose it's like any product and treatment, it becomes a minefield of how to choose. But hopefully we've invested into that, and that's why we're getting these results.
And also, I sometimes joke with my clients, but it's not actually a joke. It is actually one of the really nice treatments I do, because it's actually really enjoyable to sit, to lie under there. And for a lot of particularly, I do have a lot of guys who come in for treatment as well. In fact, one of the photos we're going to be showing is of a guy. But for a lot of my ladies, it's sometimes like some of the only me time that they get is to actually come in and lie under it. They sometimes bring in, a lot of the treatments I do, I'm obviously chatting a lot to clients, but quite often with the Dermalux, I'll say, if you want to bring in headphones, listen to some music, listen to a podcast, just completely relax under it. It's lovely, especially in winter.
I think with everything that we've all been through, I think, it's a nice treatment to have. So which treatments, which sort of treatment combinations do you think deliver the best results? Obviously, you're doing quite a lot of laser, but you do your peels and things. So where do you see the best sort of combination?
So that's a really hard one to answer, because I use it for everything. I really do. I use it post laser, I use it on its own, I use it combining with glycolic peels, and this is the thing, I think to get the best of any light-based treatment, you really need to be doing peels as well, because the less debris sitting on the skin surface, the better the light penetrates. And you can see that so clearly when you are treating things like psoriasis, because obviously psoriasis is an autoimmune disease, and where you obviously have a buildup of plaques of skin cells. As the light starts working and the inflammation goes down in that skin condition, the acceleration of the results is phenomenal, and that's because you haven't got as much skin sitting on the surface anymore. So really, you want a really nice, completely clear canvas for that light to penetrate as much as possible. So sorry, going back to your question. So for example, if I'm doing a full facial, pigmentation, I put them under the light. If I'm doing acne, I put them under the light. If I'm doing fractional skin resurfacing, which is, induces a lot of heat into the skin, whilst they're cooling it, I'm putting them under the near infrared because of the anti-inflammatory properties. And I think I'm right in thinking, aren't I, Louise, that a lot of plastic surgeons will use, when they're doing like facelifts, will use like the near infrared, because it reduces the inflammation. And
it's the deepest penetrating wavelength, but we call it the wound healing wavelength. So what it does, and actually, I think I've seen some questions sort of pop up, but it's quite a good time to sort of introduce this, because I think we think it's anti-inflammatory, which of course it is. But it's speeding up our body body's natural healing and repair mechanism. So it's only, you know, once we trigger an inflammatory response, actually we can't stop it. You know, it's good, but it's not that good. But what it's doing is it's modulating. So the actual medical name for photobiomodulation. So we're modulating or controlling that inflammatory response. So actually we're making sure that we're not getting any sort of adverse events or any sort of unwanted secondary effects, things like post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, slow healing, bacterial infection. So it's just helping to push that through faster, so we just get a better and quicker sort of end result.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, because when, you know, because the light obviously triggers rejuvenation in the skin. When you're doing something like laser skin resurfacing, you are creating damage to get the body to repair. So by putting them under the Dermalux straight afterwards, you are not only minimizing side effects for them, you know, swelling and sort of the unwanted side effects of that treatment, but you're actually helping with the results. So yeah, it's, for me, it's like, it's a no-brainer, you know.
Reducing downtime, I think, which is obviously, you know, in this day and age, people want results yesterday and they want, you know, but they don't want the downtime. So actually, and I think it can often, by this combination, can often help to sell some of the more aggressive procedures as well, where people, you know, it can be difficult because people are a bit averse to it. Well, actually, you know, and sort of another question that's just come into my mind about sort of pre-treating. So if you had somebody who had sort of quite a sort of a chronic condition, but actually adding LED in at the beginning of that program to sort of help to improve their skin before going in with something a bit more invasive.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when, you know, as we get older, because of the, you know, the effects of the menopause, the hormonal changes in the skin gets thinner. So anything like that is going to help to build sort of like skin resilience. So yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
So
it's how, like I said, how it's that ongoing treatment as part of any combination. So yeah definitely.
So I was going to say as well, you know, when you do have something like the Tri-Wave, you know, lots of people do all manner of different aesthetic treatments. But if you can, in terms of, you know, conveying that to your client, you know, this is another reason why to come here for treatments, because we can help minimize that downtime. And that can only be a good thing. So.
And even the ongoing treatments. So, you know, they're coming in, so it's not replacing anything that they're doing, but actually having the LED that they can be offered in between those other more invasive procedures, just to help to maintain and continuous skin improvement. So
absolutely.
So very, very versatile, as you said. So what, I think we've just touched on this really, but another question that we had was, what clinical benefits does Dermalux bring over other treatments that you offer? And I think we have touched on this, but I suppose we can just sort of...
So I suppose where I can't offer standard treatments, you know, everyone wants their skin to look great. Not everyone who comes through the door, you know, they say, well, my friend had this done, or I saw Kim Kardashian have that done, or whatever, but they may not be suitable for that. There is pretty much nobody who isn't, bar having retinal abnormalities, you know, there is no one really who isn't suitable to have Dermalux. So it's a catch-all for everyone. Everyone pretty much can have Dermalux. Obviously, like any treatments, there are certain contraindications, but really it's amazing because it's so gentle but so effective. You know, everyone thinks that they have to come out with war wounds, you know, when they have to have something like really amazing done, but you don't, and that's the thing. It is, but
sometimes I think that can also be a bit of a challenge, is explaining to people, you know, okay, so they're used to this, you know, that, like I think we were talking yesterday about this clinical endpoint, you know, they're used to seeing, you know, that they're going to be very red, but actually with the LED, they're not. Yes, they might have some calming, but it's about managing those expectations of the results. So,
but also managing their expectations in terms of getting their mindset into thinking that something like that has to look like that in order to get the results.
Yes.
This is where your before and after photos are key. And it's a bit of a chicken and egg, because you need amazing equipment to get amazing results, to get the photographs that you're then going to be showing to clients of what is possible, using on social media as well for people to go, wow, I want some of that.
Yeah.
Without the equipment, and this is the thing, I did a webinar recently for aesthetic medicine as part of their virtual conference, and I was explaining on there about devices, and some people may have seen that you have to invest in really good equipment. Without, you can't, long gone are the days where, you go for a facial and it's like, it smells nice, there's a bit of a nice clean and a steam, and, people want results, and people are so time poor. I know I am. If I'm going to spend an hour somewhere or half an hour, it has to count. I have to see something for it. You cannot get really amazing results on skin these days with just products alone. Products are, of course, very important, and I use amazing products on my skin, but you're not going to get the kind of before and after photos without medical grade devices. And so that's why it's so important to be able to have these in your toolbox, to be able to offer the solutions for people's problems. Because at the end of the day, I often say, I work with a fantastic business coach, and, we are not just putting someone under an LED light for 20 minutes. We are actually solving their problems. We're problem solvers. That is what we are as estheticians or aesthetic nurses, or, whatever your background is. And so really you need to have a toolbox that has an array of devices in there, so you can pick and choose, whoever's going to come through the door. Your worst nightmares, you really don't want to be doing a consultation thinking, I'd love to, but I don't have the right equipment to treat you.
So it's limiting the extent of, and I suppose we're seeing so many more sort of variety of different skin conditions because of environmental challenges, and people are allergic and people are on different medications. So it becomes increasingly challenging to actually ensure that you've got something there. But yes, it's...
And also because people are, when I started my clinic in 2004, 2005, we had yellow pages. We didn't have Instagram, and, people are so much more savvy now. They know what's available. They know what they should be able to expect to find in clinics, or at least not in terms of the equipment, but they do know, oh, I've heard so-and-so's had this treatment, or so-and-so's had that treatment. Whereas before, we had magazines, but now with the extent of stuff on social media, and especially like influencers who are, very open about what they're having done. People kind of tend to know what they're looking for.
The other side of that, though, is probably quite hard, because I think people are, they're we're selling them results, and they're seeing, I want to look like this, I want my skin to be like this. So we've got almost a bigger challenge to get to that, because people have their expectations are probably
and that's where the consultation is key. And during lockdown, I did another webinar on ethical consultations. I'm someone, I hate being sold to. My worst nightmare is like your the typical double glazing person who comes to your door and with this kind of it's today or never kind of offer. I hate all that stuff. I'm all about, if someone comes to me with a problem, I want to tell them, because quite often in my consultations, I will even say, this is actually what you need. Like, say, for example, it's like something that needs to be done by a doctor or a dermatologist, and I will point them in the right direction. But because I know my stuff and I know what is possible, what is realistic, I never really get any unhappy clients. And that's not because I can do everything 100% of the time. It's because I'm very honest with what's possible. And I'm very, hope, good at managing their expectations. And you're right, it's really key to manage people's expectations, especially with something like LED, which is not, the results are amazing, and you'll see in a few slides the before and afters, but it is possible to get results after 2 treatments, but actually sometimes it is a course, and it's making sure that person is aware of that, is on board with that, and obviously has the budget to do it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, I suppose we could say that about any treatment, couldn't we, really? Unfortunately, there's no overnight solution to this or immediate sort of wow. So actually it's, and if people have issues with the skin, that didn't happen overnight. It's not going to it's not going to go overnight, but it's about them coming on that journey with you and offering them those solutions. So and how we can do that. So well, maybe this is a good time to have a look at some of the before and after photographs. So these are your photos that you've put forward, and actually, I think where we find, and one the photographs that we use, and particularly on our social, we're often amazed when people submit photos. We're like, oh my god, we underestimate the power of what we can really achieve. But obviously, the more problematic conditions have the most wow effect. But let's have a look at some of your images. So sorry, just go to the top. So let's start.
I was going to say, while you're just looking for those images, so basically, as I say, I do a combination of treatments. So a lot of what I do is I do tag it onto laser treatments, but there's one photo coming up of a gentleman who is a skin type 6, so black skin on what's called the Fitzpatrick skin typing. So this is a really good picture to look at, because he had very much active acne and was getting a lot of what we call PIH, so post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which basically means when you get a spot, it leaves a mark. And he had a course of 6 treatments. Now, at first glance, you might think, oh, well, that's not a massive result. But if you actually look at sort of between his eyebrows, you can see where he was getting spots, which have now gone down. But if I can just draw your attention to the left-hand side as you're looking at the photograph, and you can see that you have got quite a bit of fading. Unfortunately, the light there is kind of taking away a bit of that. But he is someone who definitely would need 2 courses back to back. But already after 6 treatments, those results are really good on that skin type. And with another course, obviously we went into lockdown, you would see even better results. So I'm going to be doing that with him post lockdown, and I'll be putting that on my Instagram afterwards. But this is the kind of person who comes, if they were to come in my clinic without a Dermalux, I wouldn't be able to treat them. You can get creams, of course you can get, pigmentation creams and things, but I know from having melasma myself that light treatment is actually far better for inflammatory pigmentation than products, in my own experience.
Well, pigmentation is an inflammatory indication, isn't it? So actually dealing with that and actually helping the body to metabolize it. I think there was another pigmentation slide that we had. Yeah,
so this is something, so I do something called the Illumi facial, which combines a triacid peel and laser treatment and Dermalux. Now, traditionally speaking, the Illumi facial doesn't include Dermalux. So a lot of clinics may be doing these treatments, but if they don't have a Dermalux, they're not going to be able to, really enhance the results. So this person went under the Dermalux twice after each treatment that I was doing, and she said her skin just felt and looked amazing. So I put her under the 2 lights. So obviously I don't put her under the blue light for this one, because blue light really obviously hits the skin very superficially, and it really is just to kill the bacteria or the porphyrins, so the byproducts of bacteria that cause acne. So unless someone has acne, you really wouldn't be using the blue light on them. So she was only under the red and the near infrared. And as you can see, the results speak for themselves. And this is what I mean when I say about having the right tools and devices to get these kinds of results. 20 years ago, if this lady had gone for a facial, her skin would probably look exactly the same. It would just be clean. But these days, with what we can do, we can even out, skin tone. And that's the other great thing about the Dermalux, is that it reduces redness. So, for example, you can see in her photographs, if you look carefully, she has got a bit of sort of broken capillaries and things like that. Now, whilst Dermalux will not get rid of so it's not going to coagulate blood like a laser would, but all the general redness that you get in skin, which you can't really deal with a laser or an IPL, that is where Dermalux comes into its own. So that type of very inflammatory, obviously rosacea is an inflammatory condition anyway, but someone who had the kind of rosacea where you can't really see the actual capillaries, Dermalux is brilliant for that.
seemingly just general redness, environmental sensitivity, product sensitivity, these kind of things, even retinol sensitivity. Yeah, we've had some. So, and obviously pigmentation is probably one of the hardest things that we treat. And actually quite recently we've had some amazing, seen some amazing results, melasma, sort of, sun damage, sort of age spots, these kind of things, and how it can improve that overall protocol.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, the Dermalux has been the answer to my melasma. I mean, obviously, my face never sees the light of day. I pretty much behave like a day-release vampire lurking in the shadows of big hat. But as we know, even with that, it won't make it all go away. And my melasma has been basically sorted by doing peels and Dermalux.
So, good. I think we've got some more photographs.
Yeah, so this lady, when she walked through the door, I was literally, my eyes lit up, and I thought, oh, brilliant. Not normally the normal reaction you'd have when you meet someone whose 25% of her body is covered in psoriasis. But the reason my eyes lit up and I was so delighted is because I knew 100% I was going to be able to help her. And that is exactly how you want to feel when someone comes through your door looking to you to basically solve, quite a major skin issue. So she literally only had 2 treatments, and that was the results after 2 sessions. And this is what I mean when I was saying about how, when you're dealing with compromised skin, this is where you really see what is happening. Because as soon, the way I explain it to clients, I often say, look, products are great, but skin is like every other living organism. It responds to light. It just does. It can't not, because as soon as those wavelengths hit the skin, there is a cascade of sort of, biological reactions that happen that can't not happen. It's like a one-way street. That is just what happens. And so, in terms of, we have what's called like the powerhouse cell in the skin called the mitochondria. And as soon as certain lights hit that, it just speeds up how everything works in the skin. So healing happens that much faster. And also just going back to sort of consultations and how to speak to clients, I often say, look, the older we get, the constant upward movement through the skin slows down. That's why, when 5-year-olds cut themselves, they heal just like that. It's just everything happens really fast when you're young. But as we get older, it slows down. But as soon as these wavelengths hit your skin, you get fibroblast stimulation, everything starts working and healing, and, the inflammation settles down. And this is a perfect example of that. You can actually see, just what it's done. I mean, that's like 2 treatments of 20 minutes, 40 minutes under these lights, and look what it's done. And she couldn't get that with all the creams and all the doctor's visits and all that, that she'd been doing. She wasn't able to get that.
And knowing it's very safe though as well. I think, it's something that,
totally.
They can, she can have on an ongoing basis, not only to improve it, but hopefully to control it and make her skin more resilient.
Absolutely. And this is why it does make me laugh a bit, because obviously, I have, we have to do what's called informed consent, clearly, with all treatments we do. But really, when people are signing the consent form with the Dermalux, I mean, there really isn't anything that, that can go wrong. It's not like when you're dealing with other sort of medical devices where, the consents are pretty full on and really serious. And although obviously we should absolutely have consent procedures in place, and we always follow that, really there is no, there are no disadvantages or potential hazards with Dermalux. There just isn't.
No, I think we're just very careful on making sure people are just they would let us know if they were on any medication that might potentially be photosensitive. But even with LED, it is still gentle. But I think we have those. We have to do our best practice.
Absolutely. And of course, there are reasons why people wouldn't have this treatment. For example, if they were on any photosensitizing medication, even St. John's wort, which is a herbal remedy, people, if they have light-based treatments, can cause severe burns. Side effects and things like that for someone who isn't taking meds or anything like that, there just aren't any.
No, it's it is very, very safe. So, but I mean, like I say, amazing results, and we see really a range of the sort of improvements across all sorts of conditions. So, but just sort of going back to, I think, a sort of a point you mentioned before about, so I think, thank you for we've got, sorry, there was another.
Oh yeah, so this is the same lady. So when I said 25% of her body was covered in it, I wasn't kidding. I mean, she had it on her face, she had it on her legs, she had it on her underarms. So her underarms, that for her was one of the best things, because, you know, she found it really uncomfortable. But yeah, it's amazing. I love it. Wouldn't want to be without it. If I could, I would just sleep under it all night as well.
So. Do you see much psoriasis? I mean, I know we've got the medical certification for psoriasis, but you know, do you think it's becoming more prevalent?
I think it is, and I think although it is an autoimmune, you know, disease of the skin, because it is exacerbated by stress, I think the modern day life, everyone is just more stressed anyway. Yeah. So I think we are. I was thinking about this the other day, you know, I don't actually, although it mentions that it can treat this, I ought to put just a completely separate page just on psoriasis on my website, which I haven't. It's all these things that you never get round to doing. But yeah, I think it is on the rise because of the amount of stress that people are under generally.
It's interesting. We've had quite a lot of feedback about that. Whereas, you know, obviously we're typically treating things like rejuvenation, acne, pigmentation, but actually the wider sort of indications that are coming now because of stress and lifestyle. Yeah.
And I also get, you know, clients who, you know, like me, don't want to have injectables, but also don't want to have any kind of laser treatments either. You know, they're just very holistic and kind of, and obviously this is just gentle light, you know, so it really does capture sort of all, you know, people who want their skin to look great but don't necessarily want to, you know, have injectables or anything more that has more downtime. Yeah.
But obviously we can go into the sun with the treatments as well. So it's a great all year round treatment.
Yeah, that's exactly. And that's the thing, because obviously predominantly, you know, I am a laser clinic, and a lot of treatments I do, you know, you can't do all year round, or you can, but, you know, you have to be very careful with your client selection and trust that they're going to stay out the sun, etc. Whereas with this, it's brilliant. It is literally all year round. So in the summer, you can do it because it doesn't matter if you're tanned. And in the winter, it's even better because it's great as a pick-me-up for your mood, for everything. So
happy light. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
That's on a name for it. Okay, so, but how do you, this is a question that we get asked quite a lot, and I suppose when we do training and things like that, you know, we understand, you know, we're using the best wavelengths, the technology's there, but it's actually then putting that into practice, and actually, you know, we've got all this array of sort of treatments and products, but how do you, obviously, you know, client selection is quite easy with Dermalux because it's applicable to most people, but how do you actually sort of promote it, or how would you sort of talk to your sort of, you know, a new client that came through the door about it?
Yeah, so obviously, so if they were coming to me, say for example, it was just, you know, they didn't have acne, they just want their skin to look great, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, that I say to them, look, I do a very sort of holistic consultation. I look at all aspects, you know, I ask how much sleep they're getting, how much water they're drinking, you know, I don't just focus on what I'm doing, because when you're trying to solve a problem, you need to kind of look at all aspects of it. But what I say to them is that, look, you know, absolutely you should be using, you know, really great products. And I explain about that as well. But just going back to what I said earlier, that although you can do all the correct things, you can drink as much water as you want, you can get really good sleep, you can use great products, but really skin responds to light. And I just go back again to explaining about how, you know, skin is like every other living organism. It responds to light, that as soon as those lights hit the skin, there are things that happen. Now, some people really want to go into the biology of it. You know, it depends what background they have. Other people, they couldn't care less. They just want to know what's their skin gonna look like. And so I kind of use the terminology to suit the client, basically, so they don't end up switching off. But I try and get in there that the light is hitting the powerhouse cell of the skin, and that as soon as that light hits that powerhouse cell, and I use the word mitochondria, if I think, you know, they'll know what that is, that things start happening. And so they can expect, all the processes in the skin to just happen that much faster. It's a bit like your skin being on speed or something. It's just,
supercharging it, yes.
Yeah, everything happens at, really fast rate. And as a result, you get, so for example, they're a bit rosy, you're going to get vasoconstriction. So your capillaries are going to start to constrict, so you don't get as much redness. If you get the odd spot, we're going to be able to kill the bacteria that causes spots, and it just happens to do it more effectively than benzoyl peroxide, for example, which is used in a lot of acne products. Yeah. That it's going to stimulate the fibroblasts to produce collagen, and they're going to get an overall, it's going to even the skin, it's going to make it look more radiant, brighter, calmer, and I just use kind of like the key words to explain what is going on biologically, to actually create a picture of what the end result is going to be like.
Sort of, so I actually have an analogy that we've used it sort of sometimes in the training of talking about the mitochondria, but using the analogy of a mobile phone. So our cells have a battery, the mitochondria, our phone has a battery. When the battery runs out, we have to plug our phone in and recharge it, and then the phone. So we have to keep charging our cells. So when they're fully charged, our skin, our cells are going to function better, and we're just going to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it is key to look at everything, to ask them. And yes, of course, I'm not of a medical background, I'm not a nurse or whatever, but I think it's important to give the general information out, like, about sleep, about water, because all of this is going to help.
Yes, definitely. And I think, it's going back to client compliance, isn't it? I think if people have got to comply, they've got to come and have the treatment. But obviously we've got to look at, if they're out smoking, drinking, partying, they're an outdoor sort of type. And of course, that's going to impact on the results.
Absolutely. And I often say to people, look, it's not as simple as you come in, you pay X and off you go into the sunset. If you work with me, we can get the best results. It's the clients who work with me who get the best results ultimately. So it is like a team effort. So, and
I quite liked what you said before, and I think this is, from a sort of a clinic owner point of view, and I've been there and done that myself as well. But actually, thinking that you're selling a solution and a result. It's not just you're selling half an hour under the LED or whatever that we're selling. And I think it's getting that mindset around how that integrates into everything else as the overall sort of treatment program, and actually showing the value of that. So it's not devaluing. I think sometimes people can just say, it's just a light, it's just an add-on. And I think we need to try and move away from that mindset, because yes, there are a lot of devices in the market that, and of course I'm going to be biased because we've invested in the technology, and there are probably a lot of LED devices that are, if they're not using the right wavelength and not delivering the right power, they're only ever going to be an add-on. But here we've got something different.
Absolutely. And and this is the thing why I love Dermalux so much, because obviously I consider myself to be a laser expert. I deal in light, so I know my wavelengths, I know my light, I know how different wavelengths interact with different chromophore in the skin. So that's why, if I'm going to choose any kind of device to complement what I do, it has to be nothing short of amazing. And if it's not amazing, I don't allow it in my clinic. As I say, I happened to fall into this with my first device. But as soon as I saw what it did to that guy's back, I was buying another one. So yeah, and this is another thing that I think I mentioned. I am sometimes, quite frankly, gobsmacked at the prices that some people are charging for Dermalux, because I feel they're just completely undervaluing what it's doing. I think possibly because they think it's not a laser or it's not Botox or whatever it is, that perhaps it's not worth as much. But when you see the results that you're getting, you're not putting someone under a light for 20 minutes. And if you feel like that, then I think, it's working on your mindset as well, in terms of, because, and this is what is great about having someone like a business coach, because they look at it from an outside point of view and say, well, actually, this is what you're doing. And it's like, oh, okay. And when you have that mindset, when people come to me, they are coming to me to fix a problem. And I have a load of stuff in my toolbox that I could, I don't know, it's like someone coming to fix, you know, your boiler kind of thing. The end result is you want your boiler to be working, don't you? You're not, you know, so you're not going to be looking at what's in their toolbox. You just want to come out with a boiler that's working. And that's the kind of, maybe not a great analogy, but you are fixing someone's problems, and to have the right tools in your toolbox is key. And the price that you charge should be dependent on that. It's not necessarily what you're using, it's the fact that you're fixing that problem. And I can never understand why people aren't charging as much as they should be. I mean, I would have no interest in doing cut price Dermalux treatments, because why would you? You know, if you had an Audi that was worth 25 grand, would you sell it to someone for 5? I mean, literally on that level, you'd be like, well, that's just bonkers. Like, why would you do that? That makes literally no sense. And that's just how I feel about Dermalux. You know, why would anyone, you know, not sell it for what it's worth? Because it is worth so much.
So there's always regional variations in terms of how much people can charge, and I get that. And also, I think the nice thing with the treatment is there is really no cost to doing the treatment. There's no consumable cost, so it doesn't. But yeah, I think it's valuing the actual result.
I think possibly the problem is that people, you know, when they're thinking about getting a new device, they will look at what everyone else is charging. I've never done that, you know, and I don't mean this to sound big-headed or anything, but I genuinely know my worth, and I know that because of the results I've been able to get over the years. I know how I've been able to change people's lives. And so I know what my treatments, my time, my expertise is worth. So I just genuinely don't look at it in that way. So yeah, I would urge anyone, if anyone is, you know, considering getting any kind of new device, don't necessarily look at what the competition are doing. Just decide what your time is worth, what your expertise is worth, and the tools that you're going to use to do that, and set a price based on that.
So if you're looking at new equipment, so anybody sort of here that is maybe looking at investing in LED or technology, so what are your considerations for?
So, well, first and foremost, I wouldn't look at anything other than a Dermalux, because I've seen the results myself. You know, why would you? And as a result, as I say, I fell into it by accident, but I think it's one of the best accidents I've ever had. So, you know, because I happened to have one, I very quickly saw the results. And as a result of that, I then looked into a lot more. I looked into the research you've done, you know, why. And obviously from a clinical point of view, I get wavelengths. I completely understand about photons and the power of light, and in terms of, you know, how good the quality of that photon is in terms of, you know, what it's doing in the skin. So because I understood all that, to me, there was only ever going to be one person I would buy an LED from, and that would be yourselves. But yeah, I would 100% do that. And also I would say that although the flex machines are great, is really in clinic to have a tri-wave, because the tri-wave is 3 times stronger than the flex. So just to say as well, I think the fact that you brought out the flex is fantastic. And I think it's a really good, so I've had a couple of flexes, and I rent them out to clients to use at home, and it works fantastically because I give them a massive boost with the tri-wave, then they go home with the flex. Obviously it's been a bit different during lockdown, and then they come back in and have a tri-wave treatment. But for me, you know, if you're a clinic who can afford a tri-wave, there's no question I wouldn't choose a flex over a tri-wave. It's a good entry system, and it's great for you to be able to see what it can be capable of. But really, you need that high-powered tri-wave dose to get the kind of results you're seeing in my photographs. Obviously, they were all done with a tri-wave.
And we've got the compact as well, the same, which is the same sort of technology. Yeah, so with the flex, it's been, you know, it was a great for us. We wanted something so that people could start with a good quality device, and I mean the results have been, you know, that we've achieved have been fantastic with it as well. But yeah, so rather than, I think at that sort of part of the market, it's flooded with sort of cheap portable devices, and we just wanted to make sure that if people want to start on the journey with LED, that they're actually starting to see those results, and then obviously sort of can build through. So it was from a from a manufacturer's perspective and a technology perspective, we only launched it when we knew we were going to deliver. We wouldn't compromise on our brand reputation or the results.
And I have to say, when my first Flex arrived in clinic, and I opened it, I mean, honestly, it is so well designed. I mean, it's almost like you think it was German made, so it's like the Audi of LEDs. It's like, it really is well made. And I am someone who is very, very fussy about, what equipment that I have. And I think I sent you a photograph of my grandfather, didn't I? So when I did a webinar recently, I put this photo on and it was, armistice and everything. So it's quite fitting. But my grandfather was like completely instrumental in my life in terms of how I choose any kind of equipment, even like whether it's gardening equipment. And he was an RAF pilot. He flew hurricanes and tempests in the war. He was an astronomer. He was a chartered engineer. And he literally instilled in me the importance of well-made things. And, and then he was an aviation engineer as well. So, when you're dealing with aircraft and things, you do not even entertain, substandard sort of, mediocre equipment. And I am genuinely like that with everything in my whole life. I would rather save to get the real deal than get something that's just going to be. And I've got to tell you this, because I'm sure there's lots of people on here today who didn't see the other webinar, but literally the other week, my partner, we had to replace some garden equipment. And I really wanted to get a Stieler. And if anyone doesn't know Stieler, it's like, the best equipment you can get. And off David trotted to our local homeware store and came back without a Stieler. And I said to him, but I thought we'd agreed we were buying this. And his answer was, I said, why did you buy that? And he said, because it will do the job and it was half the price. And my reaction was, it won't do the job. You can imagine it's not amused on my face. It will not do the job. And if it does, it won't do it as well. And it won't stand the test of time. And 2 weeks later, he came in the back door and it packed up. And this is my point, with anything I buy, I will try and get, and that's not because I'm a millionaire or anywhere close, but I would rather save and get the best possible thing. And I think it's one thing making a mistake like that on gardening equipment, but in your clinic, your results are your reputation, and also the way that you're going to get more new clients through the door. If you want to be producing amazing before and after pictures as a means to get people in, to get their confidence that you are the person to do these treatments because you're so well equipped, because you've got the right tools in your toolbox and you've got the right knowledge, you cannot invest in substandard equipment. And someone said to me recently, well, I guess, you have to be financially stable to invest in good equipment. I was like, no, it's actually the opposite. It's investing in the right equipment that's going to give you that financial stability. And I know it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, but for me, there's no compromise. So that's one side of it in terms of the quality of the equipment. The other side is who your supplier is going to be. I only work with you and one other company, and I talk about my circle of trust. I do not allow any companies in my circle who either do not share the same ethics as I do. I hate really salesy companies. I want a company who's not interested in just flogging me a machine, but who is actually as excited about me getting the results as I am for my clients. And if they don't share that, or they're not there to give me the kind of clinical support I need or anything at all, then I'm not interested. It's just not the way I work. It doesn't resonate. And I feel that having those right kind of things in place will in turn attract the right people into your circle as well. So yeah, I think it's hugely important that you work with the right people, and then everyone's a winner. It's like a no-brainer, isn't it? If you're working with the right supplier, you've got amazing equipment, you're getting amazing results, that's what you want.
Ultimately, we're only as good as the results that we deliver. But we need to make sure that we're able to support that collectively we're able to support that, and that's how we grow together.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And that's the thing, because It's about building, just like you're building long-term, hopefully long-term relationships with your clients. You really want to be doing that with your supplier as well. So without a good supplier, you don't really have a great business model, because you need to have that relationship. And also, that if anything goes wrong, they're going to be there to fix it. If you've got a load of clients waiting to come in and you have an issue with your machine, which luckily I've not had with Dermalux, you need to know that someone's going to be able to come and fix that.
Yeah, of course. Unfortunately, technology things do happen, but the nice, if we're there and we're going to resolve it, that's the most important thing. It's just that reassurance for people.
Yeah, exactly. So
good. Well, I think we're having lots of questions coming in, actually. So maybe we'll just touch on some of the live questions. Sorry, I'm just going to handle some of these here. Question one. So we're using the Flex. The treatment time is 30 minutes. Why is it only 20 minutes when placed directly onto the skin? I can just sort of touch on that. And that's to do with the distance. The distance from the skin will determine the concentration of the light. So the closer the light source is to the actual target area, the more concentrated the delivery of photons. So we just reduce the treatment time. So the 30-minute treatment is based on the distance when you're actually lying underneath it in the base unit. So actually, when it's closer, then we can reduce the time. So it isn't just that we chose to do that. We actually did quite a lot of clinical sort of research on that as well. And that actually ties into the treatment times when, so that we reduce the treatment times if you're combining it in with another protocol, with another treatment. So if it's, say, 20 minutes with the tri-wave, we've got the 10-minute combination programs. And that's because if you've already, if you've stimulated the skin with a laser, or you stimulated it with peels or needling, you've got more target chromophore, which is the hemoglobin. So you're going to get more chromophore, more absorption, faster absorption of the light. So we can reduce the treatment time. And again, we did quite a lot of clinical sort of studies on that. We'd always still say probably if you can do 20 minutes, then it's always good to do that. But yeah, we've got the clinical data there. This is one for you, Kerry, actually. So we've got somebody who invested in the Flex and understands that the larger Dermalux system is more powerful. So that is the main difference. So all of our devices have the same 3 clinically proven wavelengths. So wavelengths, Kerry, as you know, it's the most important parameter because it's where the light is actually going to target, but the power. So why would you advise to invest in a larger Dermalux system, and how do you explain that difference to the clients? I think we have touched on this a little bit. But
we have touched on it. I just think, because the tri-wave is 3 times stronger, it's not just twice as strong, it's 3 times stronger. And so it's an in-clinic treatment, but actually if you're doing proper clinic level treatments, obviously, in my opinion, then really you should only be using the tri-wave if you can.
It's about faster, so it's shorter, because when we deliver a lot of power through light, then we generate heat. So the larger devices have to have more cooling technology in, but it just means that we can push more power through, we can reduce the treatment times, and we're going to get shorter treatment. So it was interesting when we developed the Flex, actually, and we wanted something as that entry level. Like I said, it's still, from our independent testing, it's the most powerful portable LED device, against many, other devices. And it's not always about the power, but the results we're getting are amazing. But hopefully it gives those clinics and salons the opportunity to start with a good quality device that then they can grow with us and obviously sort of upgrade.
I think isn't it 5 times stronger than any other home LED?
Yeah, well, so we did 3 times than the most powerful, and then some of them. So we actually tested a range. We're not here to talk, sort of name names, but we tested a lot of the sort of the face masks, or the other sort of portable canopies. A lot of them are just coming in from China and the Far East, but we just wanted, for us, like we said, it's our brand reputation. So we've got to deliver results. And, the Flex was in development for probably nearly 2 years. And we only brought it to market when we knew we could deliver that level of results. But you can use the Flex more regularly. So you can use it every day. And it has got a home use certification, although we've never sort of gone out and promoted it for home use. But I think the lockdown really gave the opportunity for people to then go out, because it's got home use certification, and like you're doing, it's enabled you to go out and rent that to clients very safely. So it's provided a fantastic business opportunity as well.
And that's what I was going to say as well. One of the reasons I love Dermalux as a company so much is because you really know your stuff, and you actually test stuff. You actually produce white papers that, and this for me, that's what I want to know. And because I'm so fussy and picky about what I allow into my clinic, I want to know that someone has really tested this stuff and can actually prove, not just, oh, well, we're 3 times stronger, or we're this. It's like, well, really, where is that? And you can actually prove that.
An independent, it was all done in the UK in an independent test lab. We've got lots of devices here in our factory, but we sent them to be tested. It's our business to know the best.
And because I was just going to say, Louise, I actually tell my clients this. I say, look, you could buy a face mask off Amazon or wherever, but it's not going to be as strong, and this is why. And this is X times stronger. This is 3 times stronger than that. And that we can actually prove that. It's not just, well, we're the best. No, we are the best, and we know why.
It's medical grade, it's medically certified, it's medical grade, it's professional sort of product. So what is the minimum amount of time you can spend in any combination of the lights per session? So again, that'll depend on the device that you're using. So we've got on the larger devices, we say 10 minutes, on the flex 20, we say 20, 15 to 20. But Kerry, you're the photon expert here, but of course we have to allow the time for the cells to absorb the photons, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. And so generally, if I'm combining it with something like a very invasive treatment, like laser skin resurfacing, I put them under sort of for 10, maybe 15 minutes. But they're also cooling at the same time. So it really does vary in terms of what you're using it and why. But I think I'm right in thinking, aren't I, Louise, that if you were just going under it for sort of general skin rejuvenation, there's like a curve, isn't there, where in terms of the interactions that are going in the skin, and after a certain amount of time, that kind of plateaus, doesn't it?
Yes. So it's not that it's negative, but actually it's not. So people say, well, can I just land it for an hour? Is that better? But no, it's the biphasic dose. So it's actually, you just get to that point where you get an optimum. And that's why it's better to do the set dose and do it more regularly.
Exactly.
Just lie under it for.
Yeah, because sometimes people say, well, if I've only got an hour, can I just go under it? And I say, no, just do 2 lots of separate, times than going under it, because you'll get more benefit that way. So
think about ourselves like a sponge. And so we'll, putting a dry sponge into water, so it'll absorb all the water, it gets to a point of saturation. And then we move on. So it's a bit like that sort of analogy, really. So we limit the time for a reason, not just because it's convenient to what we want to do.
Yeah.
Can we safely use retinol alongside Dermalux? So I don't know if this we would say, so just don't use it directly, and so don't put it on the skin and then go under the light. But
so normally for any light treatments I do, I say to stop using retinol for a few days beforehand. LED is obviously much more gentle, but you've got to kind of look at on a case-by-case basis in terms of, are they very, do they have very sensitized skin? Is it slightly compromised, etc.? So you kind of have to look at the whole picture.
What's the strength of the retinol that they're using?
Exactly. Have they just bought it online? Is it, what kind of retinol is it? Is it a retinol derivative? Is it, a retinoid? It's just, retinol is a whole, other subject, isn't it?
We find it's amazing, using the healing power of the light, particularly the infrared light. If you're having that kind of retinol, be trying to adjust the retinol, but your skin's quite itchy, dry, flaky. The LED can be fantastic at just pushing people through that. So, I know obviously we work with a whole range of products, but actually, people can get sort of quite disheartened with retinol because they can't push through that phase. But actually having LED, and that's where I think the pre-treating comes in as well. So if you're going off something quite strong and your skin hasn't adjusted, it's making sure this, using the LED in that prep stage to get the skin integrity better, so that actually they can tolerate the LED a lot more. Exactly. The retinol a lot more sort of afterwards. So so if a client presents with acne that we can't treat with normal beauty facials, what would you do? How frequently, and how would you use it on the skin? So I suppose with that, you're a sort of acne, you're doing laser as well, but if it was an acne client.
If I was just using Dermalux, the key is really to try and get them, in as often as possible. So as a minimum, well, an absolute minimum would be twice a week, but ideally you want to be getting them in 3 times a week to get under the, and this is for the tri-wave. Okay. So if they could, I would get them in even more often than that, but it's practicality as well. So so I would say to do 3 times a week, a course of 6 treatments initially, but get them to understand that they probably may well need a second course. And of course, like with anything, you know, this is not a cure for acne, but it's about getting their skin to how they want it and then keeping it like that. And so when I do any kind of acne treatments, I treat acne really successfully in clinic, and quite often people don't come back for months, but that's because they're also using good home care as well. And as soon as they start seeing maybe the odd spot appear, is get them in again under the light.
Under not only just the actual improvement stage, but actually keeping it under control going for. And of course, you know, acne is like, you know, we said, you know, pigmentation is hard. Acne, of course, is hard because what's the cause? It's always about the diagnosis. I think successful treatments come with the right diagnosis, and often we don't always know, but is it hormonal? Is it stress? Is it diet? Is it, so a whole myriad of sort of different.
But so 3 a week, ideally, under the tri-wave with the 3 wavelengths.
Right, okay. Peels that don't require neutralizing, do you do Dermalux first? So as part with our protocol, we say if the peel isn't neutralized, we just probably advise not to use the light immediately after the peel, because, you know, if there's any, it should neutralize straight away, shouldn't it? But do you do peels that are?
I do. So I use a triacid peel that's been formulated specifically for prior to laser treatments, and therefore I use it for LED as well. And that is, you put it on, you do neutralize it before you take it off, and then you go straight under the light. And I think, I think it's really important. And at the very least, I use a glycolic wash before they go under it anyway, even if they're not having a peel. But you just need to make sure it's neutralized before it comes off the skin.
Otherwise, I'd say either way. You can do it. I wouldn't do it immediately before the peel. I'd say try and get them in maybe the day before or a couple of days before, if it's a non-neutralizing peel, and then you can get them in the day after or within sort of 48 hours. So once it's properly neutralized, I think sometimes if there's any product left in the skin, and it can just enhance or those results, it's just safer. So a question for you. The client who had 25% of her body covered in psoriasis, did you treat a whole body with the LED? So you used your tri-wave, didn't you, with that? Or did you
I was lucky because at this point I had 2 of them in Bournemouth. So I had 1 tri-wave on her face and 1 on her legs, and then I did her underarms. But she only had 2 sessions, unfortunately. I wish she'd come back, but she saw the results. It was great. She then went on a sunny holiday. So her skin improved, obviously, because of that. And that's great. And that's fine. It gave it the boost it needed. But I did treat all of her psoriasis because I literally had 2 tri-waves on her at the same time. Which was great. And then, so.
Winter's often a time where it becomes more prevalent anyway. So. I've got another question for you. Do you automatically add LED onto your treatments and increase the price, or do you offer it or do you have do you give people an option, or do you just say,
it depends. So for example, for the Illumi facial, which I charge £250 for, I actually include the Dermalux in that, and I basically sell that as an extra look. There may be other people doing this, but here you get a Dermalux as well. So that's a really good example where I don't actually charge any extra for that, but I'm happy with that because it's part of a quite a big, not
package.
That's really expensive, but it's not a cheap facial, so that's great. Other treatments where I feel like, so for example, after fractional skin resurfacing, where they're not getting all of the lights, they're just getting the near infrared to help with the downtime. If they are a really good client who spent several £1,000s at the clinic, I will just do that for free. Otherwise, that is the only time I discount the Dermalux, is when I'm only using the near infrared, and if I'm using it to help with sort of side effects as opposed to all the other bits that it can do. But otherwise, yeah, I charge £60 per Dermalux treatment. They can buy a package. If they buy 5, they get the 6th one free. So it brings it down to 50. But I would never sell a Dermalux for less than that in its own right.
And how long? So they come in. Obviously, you're preparing the skin. How long are they with you for that sort of period of time? For the treatment session.
What, for the Illumi facial? Just for the
if they're just coming in for the LED, how much time?
So I allow, it's a 20-minute treatment, but I allow half an hour, obviously, to get them to reconsent, because I get all my clients, but just because I do this with laser, I get them to reconsent each time as well with Dermalux, and you do actually provide a daily consent form for that, which is really handy. So I use that. Get them on and off the couch, clean the skin, etc. Make sure they're comfortable. So I allow half an hour for a 20-minute treatment. But quite often, that is probably the lowest I would, charge for that sort of amount of time, because I'm combining it with other things as well.
So I suppose it depends on the need that they have, and if they're going to come back in between and have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but obviously, we would always say, I think the thing is, as a one-off, it's nice if you're having it, you've already had the course, or it's a boost, but actually, we need to make sure that it's a cumulative benefit. So people need to have a few sessions to sort of start seeing those results. So the block of treatments, and sometimes we advise more in a block. It really depends on how, we can give sort of that advice. And we've actually got a promotional sort of guide that we'll be launching shortly. So just with some more ideas of how it can be integrated. On the back of this to support this webinar. So I think that's, well, I think we're just running out of a little bit of time. I know we don't want to keep everybody, but we have had quite a lot of questions in. So what we'll do is we'll get all the questions together. You can always email to info@. I know Kerry, if there's any questions for Kerry as well, then we're gonna send out an e-shot with all the contact details, so you can either get in touch with Kerry directly, or if there's any sort of questions that we can answer.
Yeah, I do try and post as often as possible before and after photos on my Instagram, which is Laser Skin Solutions UK. So because I think it's really important to both show and to basically just celebrate, what you're actually doing. So I would really encourage people to, if you're not already, to try and post as many before and after photographs as you can.
Just to promote it, And we have had quite a few questions in, I think, about rental, just general. So what I say is we're writing all the questions. We've got a record of them all. So if there's anybody that's interested in the rental, we've actually created a Dropbox link with a lot of sort of support material in there, so we can send that link on, and then you can have a look into that. So that's everything from social media posts. We've got a draft agreement. We've got sort of how to rent, essentially, sort of a guide. So anybody that's interested in that, either drop us an email to the info@Dermalux LED address, or if you've written in on the questions, then we'll send that to you as well. So. Well, thank you very much, Kerry. It's been fantastic to get an insight into sort of your clinic and how you integrate Dermalux. I think hopefully it's been very helpful for everybody. We have recorded this. So again, there's been people asking about this. So we have recorded it. We're just going to do a bit of editing so we can add in the live questions from the end. And then what we'll do is we'll send an e-shot out to everybody with a link to the recording, and it will be available, as all of our other webinars, on our YouTube channel as well. So there'll be a link into that. But
no, it's lovely. I'm actually going to try and go under the Dermalux this afternoon. I'm going to pop into clinics. Of course, we're all opening next week again, which is amazing.
So, and for any clients out there, if there's anything that we can do to help or support, if there's any promotional material that you need, we're going to launch, I just have to mention this now, but we are launching our sort of winter social campaign, and we were a bit tired about whether to do a Christmas campaign, but hopefully if we can get back into it now.
Exactly.
So we're going to be doing some social and marketing campaigns, so we'll hopefully be launching that on Monday.
Brilliant. So no, thank you. And
thanks,
you must honestly lie in bed at night sometimes and think, wow, what an amazing thing I've created. It is amazing what you've done. So you really, credit to you, honestly. And I know it's not just you, it's the whole team, but you really have taken LED to a whole new level. And my clients are testament to that. I love it. I literally love it. It's like,
No, thank you.
especially someone with melasma who can't have all these amazing laser treatments I do, you know, it's just, what would I do without my Dermalux?
Well, very good. You know, we have invested a lot into this, and it's a passion personally for myself, but we're only as good as the clients and the supports that we have with us as well. So hopefully, you know, it's our job to deliver good technology that delivers great results and support around that. But, you know, without our clients, and, you know, then that's what makes it. So thank you to everybody as well.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. All right. Well, love to see you, and we hope to see you. So good luck, everybody, for opening. If you're not already open, you know, hope everything goes well next week. And but anything you need, please keep in touch. All right.
Brilliant. All right.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. See you soon. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.